Welcome back. So today I am finally going to do this long-awaited video. I've been promising it for a long time and I'm finally going to do it. And that is a tutorial on Embrilliance Essentials. So this is actually I'm working on. I'm going to go ahead and make a birthday shirt for my my little cousin tomorrow most likely. But today I'm going to actually get the Embrilliance file ready. So I'm going to bring you guys along for the ride and give you some tips and tricks on working with Embrilliance, especially for beginners. So if you already know how to work Embrilliance, you're probably not going to learn much from this video, and I'm sorry. But I know a lot of people have been asking me for, a quick tutorial. They don't know how to use it. They're kind of lost. So that's what today is for. So I'm going to first start off talking about there's when it comes to Embrilliance, there are lots of different software packages basically. So Embrilliance is like an umbrella, and underneath of that there are different programs and different software. It does work for both Mac and for PCs. So whether you have Windows or you have an Apple, it'll work for you. So that's what's really great about Embrilliance, and that's what makes it very popular. There is a free version. There is a free version, and in that free version, it allows you to do certain things, but it doesn't allow you to do other things. So I'm going to talk about that and show that to you today. What I have is just the basic level of it. It costs, $100 and something, I want to say, and that is Embrilliance Essentials. So I had the free version and I went ahead and upgraded to the Embrilliance Essentials, and it's a worthwhile investment. I will tell you that right now. But I will show you how you can get away with using it for now before you're able to work to make that investment. So to begin, I'm going to go ahead and open Embrilliance for you. So this is my copy of Embrilliance. I don't have anything here. So to start off, there's a bunch of buttons here. This one right here with the little folder says Preferences. I'm going to click that. The first thing it's going to take you to is your hoop. So number one, you want to set up what hoop you have and the format. So I have a Brother PE800, so I'm going for a PES file. All of these here are different hoop sizes. So the numbers that it gives you here are in millimeters. And since I'm in the United States, we use inches, so I used a 5x7 inch hoop. So basically, I kind of scroll down and start guessing which one. So this, like say if I click this one, 50 by 50 millimeters, it tells me, or approximately 2 inches by 2 inches. So no, that's not it. So I'll go higher. That's approximately 4 inches by 4 inches. That one's a 6 by 10, 7 by 12, 5 by 7. There we are. So it's the 130 millimeters by 180 millimeters is approximately a 5 by 7. So I'm going to click Apply and OK. And then this gives me right here, this is my hoop size. So of course you can move it this way, that way, up and down, and then you can zoom in if you need to and zoom out. But I like to keep it so I can see my whole hoop, so I know what my design looks like within the hoop. So there we have it. I have a 5 by 7 inch hoop now. So if you did not pay for the Embrilliance Essentials and you're just doing the free version, what you're able to do is upload an embroidery file in here and put a name. You can use font, and that's about it. You cannot do what's called merging stitch files, which if you hover over here where you see this, like the blue blocks and the needle, that is to merge a stitch file. So that's not something that's going to be available to you if you have not purchased it, if you're doing the free version. So we will cover that because I'll have to do that for the design that I'm doing today. But right now I just want to show you what you can do with the free version. So with the free version, you can go ahead and open up a design. I'm not sure if it looks exactly like this, but you should be able to open up, this says merge design and merge stitch file. It's basically the same. I don't know why there's two different buttons. Oh, that's why. Okay, I'm sorry. So these are designs that come already preloaded into Embrilliance Essentials. I've never used any of these, to be honest. I just get all of my designs from Etsy, and I'm going to show you how I do that as well. So this one, like I said, it gives you free stuff. I'm not sure if that comes within the free version or not. That I cannot tell you, and I apologize for that. but these are like free designs that they give you with Embrilliance Essentials. So if you go to Merge Stitch File, it opens up the folder on your computer. So once I download files from Etsy, I go ahead and I organize them. So I'm all about organization. So like I go under Documents, I have a file called Embroidery, and then within that I have my different designs. So let's say you want to do a birthday shirt with the number and a design. If you have only the free version, you can only do one thing, either design or the number. You have to pick one. So for example, I have these, so if I go to numbers, I have Action Applique number set. So a lot of people have asked me where I got my numbers. I actually got that from Angela from her website, kidscustomdesigns.com. Under her embroidery section is where I bought my Action Applique number set. So I like them because they're pretty bold numbers. So let's say I want to do a 2-year-old. So when I come down here, it shows me my files here. I need a PES format because I work with a Brother machine, and they work with PES files. Some of these other files are for different brands of machines. So depending on your brand, you may have to choose a different file extension. So for Brother PE800, I'm going to use this PES, and I'm going to use the number 2. So I'm going to double click that, and it's going to open. Boom. The good thing about Embrilliance is that it allows you to minimize and maximize a design to a certain extent and still keep the same consistency. Because this is not like an SVG file, like if you're using your Cricut, okay? What it's showing here, these are stitch files. So if you made this too big or too small, it's going to decrease the amount of basically like composition of the thread. So you have to be careful doing that. Now some other programs, if you move this even a little bit, it would mess it up. But Embrilliance does allow you a certain amount of wiggle room when minimizing and maximizing these sizes. So for example, if this is my number 2 and this is my 5x7 inch hoop, and I want to put a name here, then this number 2 is a bit too big. So I want to make it a bit smaller. So I'm going to click on it and then drag it from one of the corners to make it a bit smaller. And in the background, Embrilliance has altered the threads here to make it still fit. So now that I did that, you see it's off center, but I want mine to be in the center. So I'm going to come over here to these buttons, and it says this one here with the arrows facing inwards. So here you have 4 arrows facing the middle square, and here you have 4 arrows facing outwards. So you want the ones facing inwards, and it says Center Designs in the Hoop. I'm going to click that, and boom, it puts it right in the center. So it's centered, but I do want it a bit higher so I can fit the name. So it's still clicked on the number 2. I'm going to use my arrow keys on my keypad, on my keyboard here, and I'm going to click up. And it keeps it right on the center, but it moves it up. Okay? Boom. And I can click out. So there's my number 2, exactly how I want it. Now let's say I want to put a name. And this you can do with the free version of Embrilliance. So I'm going to come over here to the letter A, and it says create letters. So I put in one stitch file, and I'm going to put in one name. So one thing of font, basically. And that you can do with the free version. So if I click A, it gives me some text here. So I come over here to the properties, and I could type in the name. I go into the text box where it says ABC. I'm going to type in the name. Let's say I'm going to put the name Gabriel. And then I hit enter. There it is. It says Gabriel. So now you see it centered it right in the middle. But for one, I want it a bit bigger. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the number 2 and drag it. And then I'm going to put it back in the center. Hit the same button, Center Designs and Hoop. And now I'm going to use my down arrow. I have to click it one more time, I believe. Yep. Clicked it one more time. And then move my down arrow to put it where I want it. Now, if I wanted to leave it on that font, awesome. But if I want to change the font, I'm going to come over here to this arrow, this drop-down box, and there are all my fonts that I have loaded into Embrilliance. Now, don't worry, I'm actually going to show you how to load in a font as well. But for right now, there's a font that I like to use for boy names, and it's called Prince George. So it's already in alphabetical order. I'm going to scroll down to that. Why am I not seeing it? Oh, because it's under, I got it from Stitchtopia. Stitchtopia has a lot of fonts. You can go directly to the website or you can go to their Etsy shop. So since I got it from Stitchtopia, it says Stitchtopia Prince George. Now, usually when you buy a font set, it'll give you different sizes. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. So here's like a 0.5 inch, here's a 1.5. I think a 1.5 or a 2 inch might be good for me. So I'm going to click that. And see, it's just a little bit too big. So I can go back and do a 1 inch, see what that does for me. And actually that's perfect. And it's censored, so I'm happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and click out. So I can do this whole design in the free version of Embrilliance, just like this. And I could put like a character font, character material when I do the applique. Because this number 2 is going to be applique, and of course the Gabriel is just going to be stitched out. So the next thing I would do is change the colors. But since I'm going to do that for my actual project, and I'm going to walk you through that, I'm not going to change the colors right now. So I would keep watching the video, and you'll see exactly how to change the colors and everything like that. But as of right now, I just wanted to show you this is something you can do for free with the free version of Embrilliance. Now, let's say you don't want to put the number 2 and you want to put a design. You can do that instead. It doesn't have to be a number. You can go ahead and click this and then click delete, and it's gone. Come back to this merge stitch file and find a design. So I go under designs, and let's see if I wanted to do an animal. Let's say I wanted to do an elephant. So look, here's the elephants that I have, and it's a here's my 5x7. So I'm going to click that, double click it, and there's my elephant. Now you see he's sideways. If I wanted to turn him the other way, you see there's a small blue dot here. When I hover over it, it shows me a rotate symbol. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate it now. And then you see it. If you see any part of your design going over the hoop, that means it's too big. So that's when we're going to shrink it down some. And if you notice right here, it shows it in yellow. You see this yellow? That means that some of your design is outside of the hoop. So go ahead and shrink this down. And then let's center it. And then move it up. Okay, so instead of putting a number 2, like if Gabriel was turning 2, now he's got an elephant. And this is still an applique. So again, this is the free version. You can do a name and you can do some form of design, but only one. So if it's a design itself or it's a number, that's up to you. Now, the one way you can get away with doing a number and a design is buying that type of file on Etsy. So let's say we want to get rid of the elephant. Bye-bye elephant. Come up to merge file. So I do have some files where it is the design and the number. I have it saved here under numbers. Let's see, I have a T-Rex. Let's say Gabriel wants to be a T-Rex and he's turning 2. So these files I purchased like that. So let's say I want to do a 5 inch. Let's see if that'll fit. Here's a number 2 with the T-Rex. I double click it and boom, there he is. Let me make him a little smaller. And then center him and then move him up. So this is one way to get away with using the free version of Embrilliance and still having a design and a number and the name. But you have to purchase the file that includes the number and the design. You have to purchase them together, and they are a bit more expensive than just doing the design and then the numbers. So that's something to keep in mind. So you're paying a little bit more that way, but it might be good for you, if you're just starting off and you don't have the money yet to purchase Embrilliance Essentials. So it's a good hack, is to buy the design with the number. Okay? So that's what I'm going to say for the free version. What I'll show you now is how to put a font file into Embrilliance. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all of this. And I'm actually going to show you as well how I get my files from Etsy. So I'm going to go into my Etsy page right now, and I'm going to search. Well, okay, first, so when you purchase a design on Etsy, so say I already purchased, so this is going to be one of my purchases. I'm going to go over to you and to purchases and reviews. And it's going to show me my most recent purchase, which is this barn farm animal design. So I've already done this, but if I hadn't done this yet, like I just purchased this file, I'm going to go here to download files, scroll down. There's a lot of information, and then it'll say download. But you see here, it says I already downloaded it. So I'm downloading it now. And make sure you know where your computer is saving your downloads. I save all my downloads to my desktop so I can get it easily. So I'm going to exit out of that, minimize, and then here it is. It's a zipped file. If you don't know how to open a zip file, it's very easy. You just double click it, and then here it says extract all. And if it doesn't take you directly to the extract page, like say if it takes you to home or share or view, then you just click on the extract page where it says compressed folder tools. And you want to click extract all and then extract. And it takes a little bit. It'll extract all the files within the folder. Then you can exit out. So now you'll see you'll have two folders, one that has a zipper on it and one that's open. The one with the zipper on it, you can go ahead and just delete it so it doesn't confuse you. Open up the open folder, and it'll show you what you have here. Usually it gives you like a picture of what the design looks like. So here's your JPEG, and it shows you what your design should look like. And then it'll show you which files you have. So I have a PES again because I have a brother machine, so I'm going to click that. And then these are the different sizes that it gave me. So a 4x4, 5x7, 6x10, and 8x8. So then what I do is I organize my files, and I'll take these and I'll cut these files from here and I'll paste them into my embroidery file under documents. Like I go to documents, I go to embroidery, and then I'll save it here within my designs. You can do it however you want to do it, but I like to stay very organized because I have a lot of files. Okay, so that's how to do a design file. Now let's say I want to do a font file, which is a little bit different. So the easiest way to work with Embrilliance is to use BX fonts. That's the letter B and the letter X. So what I do when I'm looking for a new font is I go into Etsy and I type in BX fonts. If you do an embroidery font that's not BX, it is harder to work with. So I don't even mess with that. So I just type in BX fonts. A lot of times you can get like these mega font packs or something like this. I think I have this one. So you get 10 different fonts for $9.99. It's a good deal. But make sure it says BX font format. So when I was looking at, I needed another boy font because I always used that Prince George. So where was the one that I saw? Here it is, Grasshopper. So I'm going to click that. Okay, so now you're going to go back and do the same thing what I told you before and go to your accounts and go to purchases and reviews. And there it is. It's processing, so it doesn't show the download file yet, but you can just refresh it in a minute. And there it is. So I just refreshed the page and now it's here. So you click download files. And then click download. And again, it's automatically download to my desktop. Okay, so it's done. I can exit out of Etsy. So here's my file. It's zipped up. I'm going to go ahead and extract all. Okay, so it finally finished extracting all the files. So again, now I can take the original zip folder, delete it, and then open up the folder that's open. This Grasshopper font, I can open it up, and there we have it. So here's some pictures. And it has both lowercase and uppercase letters, as well as numbers. Be careful because sometimes you purchase a BX font and it does not include the numbers. And if you notice, this doesn't include any punctuation. I don't see an exclamation point, I don't see an apostrophe or a period. So that means that it most likely did not come with that. So that's just something to be on the lookout for. So if you notice here, I can go to PES, and these are PES files. But that means that just like how I showed you the file with the barn or the file with the T-Rex and the number, each one of these is a separate file. Here's 1.5 inch number 7, and it keeps going on. Here is a 2.5 inch letter A uppercase. I don't want to have to do a separate file for each letter or number and for each size. So this is why I purchased a BX font. So you come down here, this symbol right here for Embrilliance, and it says embroidery install. These are BX fonts. You have a 1.5 inch, a 2.5, and a 2 inch. So let me show you how easy this is. I'm going to open up Embrilliance. There we have it. All I have to do is now get my file, grab the one that I want. So I'm going to grab this 1.5 inch BX file of Grasshopper. I'm going to click it, drag it, and then you see how it changed. See, it looks here, and now once I bring it to Embrilliance, it looks like that. I'm going to let go. Minimize this, and it says the font has been installed. You click OK. Boom, that's it. That's all I had to do. So now I just have to make sure that I do it for each size. So here's the 2.5. I'm going to do the same thing, grab it, click and hold it, then drop it right in here. Minimize, and it shows me it has been installed. Now my last size that I got, the 2 inch, because it gave me 3 sizes with this file, grab it, drop it, minimize, boom, it's been installed. And that's it. So because I like to keep track of all my files, I'm not going to save all of these files because I don't have that, but I'm going to go into my documents, and then embroidery file, and you see here I have a folder for fonts, so I'm going to click that, and I'm going to make a new folder, and it's going to be called BX Grasshopper. Or actually, I don't even need the BX. I don't save that for all of them. So I'm just going to call it Grasshopper so that I can save this file. And then I'm going to drop the BX files in there just in case I need them later on, and the pictures. And whenever I leave pictures in a file, I always right-click, go to View, and click Large Icons so that whenever I open this file, I can see the pictures very easily. And that's it. So now it's saved and it's classified and categorized in my computer, so I don't have to worry about it later if I need it. Then this folder right here, I'm just going to delete it because, you know, technically I could use those files if I ever switch machines or whatever, but I don't need it right now, so I need it just out of my way. So I go ahead and delete it, so it's not taking up all that space on my computer. And then if I ever do need to re-download those files, I can go back into Etsy into my purchases and re-download them. But at least I have my BX files, which is what I really need. That's saved on my computer. But I don't have to even mess with those files anymore because now it's saved into Embrilliance. So to just double check our work, all we have to do is come to the A. It's already set on Prince George because that's the last font we used. But I'm going to go ahead and highlight this text and type in Gabriel again and hit enter. Again, I wanted a boy font because I have plenty of script fonts and real cute, pretty fonts for girls, but I needed another boy font, so that's why I went with, so I have the name Gabriel and I have Grasshopper. So I'm going to go to this drop-down box and search for grasshopper, and there it is. It's saved under RM. So let's do the 2.5 inch, and there we have it. It's a little too big for a 5 by 7 inch hoop, so let's do the 2 inch. It's a bit smaller, but still too big. Let's do the 1.5 inch. A lot better. Still a little too big, but again, that's where you want to get it as close as you can, and then you can minimize and maximize. So that'll fit. Then again, I go to center in the hoop, and there it is. Now let's say I wanted to mess with the spacing of the letters. Maybe I feel like the spacing is too far apart. So I click, and you see how there's a green box on each letter. You click the green box, and then that gives you options just for that G. So if I want to move it a little to the right, I can use my right arrow and move it. And then if I want to move the B, make sure I'm clicked onto there, then click on the green box for the B and move it this time to the left. And you can do the same thing, move it up and down as well. The R, click on the center box, move it to the left. This I would recommend doing if you have a script font, just to make sure that your letters are overlapping, because especially when it comes to embroidery, you don't want it to not be overlapping when you have a script font, because it's going to make it look bad. So yeah, that was just an example. If I wanted my letters closer together, I could do them farther apart. I can do them taller. What if I wanted this G to be a bit taller because it's the same height, and since it's the main letter, oops. So I click on it, or not taller, I'm sorry, it moves it up. So you're just messing with the positioning, you know? So that's how you deal with fonts. Okay. So now I'm going to take you to the part where I'm going to do a full walkthrough of how I personally set up a design stitch file to put it onto my PE800. So this is an actual file. This is an actual design that I'm going to do most likely tomorrow, and I'll film that as well in a separate video. But this video would just be Embrilliance. So in this design, it is for my little cousin. If anybody's been with me for a while, if you ever watched my video where I did a baby blanket and I embroidered the name on it for a new baby, it was for a baby shower. This is the same baby. He's now a year old. His birthday is Saturday, and I can't believe it. It's my little cousin Javier. So this, Javi likes Paw Patrol, so that's what he's getting, a birthday shirt for his birthday, the #1 for his first birthday, and the Paw Patrol. So I'm going to walk you through exactly how I do the whole thing. So this is my workflow. It may be different for different people, but this is just what works for me. I like things very, very well classified. I like to put the exact colors in, and I'll show you why. And it'll help me tomorrow when I do my embroidery. It does take extra steps, so you don't necessarily need all the steps I'm about to show you. But for me, it definitely helps, and it keeps things organized because I do not have a multi-needle machine. On a multi-needle machine, it might be a little easier, but since I have to change my threads every time because I have a Brother PE800, it's best for me to stay completely and 100% organized this way. So I'm going to start off by getting my #1. So this, again, now I'm using the paid version of Embrilliance Essentials. Because I'm merging stitch files, this is not something that you can do with the free version. So I'm going to click Merge Stitch File. I'm going to get my #1 first. So I'm going to go to my Action Applique. Here's my #1, and here's the PES file I need. So I'll double click that. I'm going to make this a lot smaller because I have to get the Paw Patrol in here. I'm going to leave that there for now. Now I need my Paw Patrol. So again, this is where you cannot do this with the free version because I'm going to merge a stitch file, meaning I'm going to have this stitch file, the #1, applique file, plus the Paw Patrol. So merge stitch. And reminder, you know, everybody, you do things at your own risk, but if you wanted to sell Paw Patrol, remember that is copyrighted. So I have it here to do it. I'm doing this for free for family. This is not something I'm selling in my shop. Just throwing that out there. because I'm sure I might get questions on that. So I'm going to come over here to designs, which is where I personally save my files, and then under characters, and then here's my Paw Patrol, and I have multiple Paw Patrol characters, so he wants Chase. So there's Chase. And the numbers are the different sizes. So since I'm doing this in a 5x7 inch hoop and I have the number 1 there, I'm probably going to need this smaller one here. I'm going to double click. Yeah, and he's already still a little too big. So I'll make him a bit smaller. So these I'm not going to center in the hoop because I'm messing with the size here. So they are going to overlap a little bit. Just make sure if you overlap, I would recommend putting the character on top of the number. So basically I just keep moving these around until I see what works, what looks good, making sure I'm staying within the hoop. I like to show part of the number underneath here so that like his little paws are on top. Okay. Now I'm going to add the name. So I'll hit the letter A. I might use Grasshopper, I might use Prince George. Let's see what works better. His name is Javier. That looks really cute. That looks like a first birthday, you know? Now let's see what it looks like with Prince George. I like the Grasshopper. I'm going to stick with Grasshopper. Yep, that's cute. Especially for a first birthday. He's just a little baby. So I have it. Oops. I was hitting my arrows. I need to keep it on 1.5 inch. Okay, center in the hoop, which it should already be. Click on it and then use my arrows to move it down. Perfect. So as it stands, this is how my design would look. The only thing I don't like is it looks a little bit more centered to the left, but it's because of his tail here, but I can't have his tail coming outside of the hoop. So it's just something I'm going to have to deal with. But it is, you know, for the most part centered. So there's 2 main things I have left to do here. One is I have to change all my colors because these are not the colors I want to keep it. Now again, some people just leave it as the colors that they are because then you know which colors you're going to change it to. But me personally, I want to see it there, the colors that I need it to be. So I'm going to change each individual color, and I'll show you how to do that. But the other thing I have to do is hide stitch files. So here's the reason why. If you're looking at this number 1, it's an applique, and it's a satin stitch. This green line is a satin stitch. But now if you're looking at the dog here, Chase, he's got satin stitches as well. And it overlaps with the number 1. Now when you put a satin stitch on top of a satin stitch, it's going to get a little too bundled up. It's going to not look so great, and it can break your needle. And you can keep having needle breakages because you're doing a satin stitch on top of a satin stitch. So what you want to do is hide the satin stitches underneath. So since that's why I told you to put the dog on top, and then what I'll do is break up the satin stitch of the number 1 so that it's not a satin stitch on top of a satin stitch. And maybe this will make a little more sense afterwards. But first what I need to do is save the file. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and what I just always do is just save it as a stitch and a working file just to make things easier. And I save that under Documents, then I go to Embrilliance, I have a file there, Projects, number and name, and then I save it as, so this is a number 1 for Javier, so I do number 1, Paw Patrol, oh, and his name first, I think that's what I usually do, yeah, and save it. Okay, so now that the file is saved, this little icon here where it says remove hidden stitches, you should be able to click that, and it should remove the stitches underneath of the number 1. So if I move the dog, now look at the number 1. Did you see that? I'm going to undo this, but this here is your undo. So I'm going to remove hidden stitches, and if I move the dog, it's kind of blurred out, but if you look at the number 1, it's not a full satin stitch all the way around. There's breakages in it where the dog goes. You see? Here, 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 down here. And that's what you need to happen. So I'm just going to undo it, but make sure it's still removed hidden stitches. All right. And you have to save the file before to do it. So now I'm just going to resave it to make sure we're good. Okay. Now I can go about changing colors and whatnot. So first of all, let's look at the number 1. So this is the order. If you look in the objects panel here, this is the order in which it's going to stitch out. So it's going to do the number 1 first. It's going to do an applique positioning stitch, then 2 embroidery stitches in moss green. Then it's going to go to the number 5. I'm sorry, chase 5, and do all of this. These are all the steps for chase the dog. And then at the end, it's going to do the letters. Now I can reorder this if I wanted to. Oh, you can just right click and click move earlier. There you go. That's a lot easier. I was struggling there for a minute, I'm sorry. Okay, so I want to set up my colors. The first thing I do is I look at the design and figure out what colors do I want based on the colors that I have on hand, which is something I already did. So here are all the colors that I want to use. Now I use Madeira threads, and Madeira is saved. All of the code numbers are saved within Embrilliance, which is what I love. So let's decide first and foremost if these are, let's put the colors for the dog first because he has set colors, and then that'll help me determine what colors I want to do the number 1 and the name. So when I click on the dog, I'm going to hit here, the plus sign. So it's telling me, when I click on each step, it's telling me what it's going to do. So brother, embroidery, blue. So it defaults to a brother threads, but I'm not using brother. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and click preferred, and it switches it to what it decides is the closest Madeira thread. So the one that I'm going to use, I'm going to look on my thread spool, and it says it's 1842. Wow, that just so happened to work out. This is exactly the thread I chose, and that's what it shows here is the 1842. So that's good. That's exactly what I want. That doesn't always work out that way, and I'll show you how to do it when it doesn't. So this next one, it says it's violet, and what's that doing? So like right now, there are so many steps, and I can't figure out what it's pointing to. I believe it's the feet. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Stitch Simulator. So I'm going to click out of that. Right here, where you see this, it's a Stitch Simulator. We're going to click that. So this is showing you what the entire process is going to be. So it's showing you first, it's going to do a positioning stitch, then a tack down stitch, and then a satin stitch for the number 1. And then it's going to go to the dog and do a positioning stitch for the face, then the feet, then the tack down stitch. But it hasn't done any satin stitches yet until now. Now is when it's doing satin stitches. So at the end of the day, you do not have to set specific colors for your tack down or your positioning stitches because they're going to be covered. The only thing I will caution is that sometimes when you do certain colors, if you do a dark color for a tack down or positioning stitch, it can come back to haunt you because it can show up. So like if your satin stitch is white, but you used black for a tack down stitch, it may still show through. So I don't recommend doing that. But the colors do not have to match your satin stitch at all. You just have to make sure the satin stitch is what shows darker. Okay, so this is just a stitch simulator and shows you everything all the way through. So what I like to do is I like to set one color for a positioning stitch and one color for a tack down stitch. So let's go back over here. So that's what I'm going to do. So instead of using my actual color for the tack down stitch, I want to use something that's completely off so that I know as soon as I see it that it's a positioning stitch. Okay, also what I need to do, because this file does not show this as applique, like a applique steps. It doesn't show it as a tack down or positioning stitch. So I'm going to tell it to do that. So when I click on each step, so I click on the first one, I'm going to double click here. And you see this tab comes up, this is applique. So I'm going to click that. And see, it says style, not applique, but I want to tell it that it is an applique. So I'm going to put position and click OK. So for this next step, it's also a positioning stitch. So I'm going to double click it and tell it the same thing. Position. Now see, it still says it's brother, so I'm going to click preferred and it'll switch it to Madeira for me because I set it up as my preferred. Okay, so actually this first one was the position stitch and the second one was a tack down. So I'm going to change that to applique material. And then here we have position and then a tack down. So I can do the same thing. So I'm going to make this one position. Okay, and then make this one a tack down. Material. So I'm going to choose as my positioning stitch a different color. There's no gray in this design, so I'm going to use this gunpowder. So when I see gunpowder, I'm going to know that it's a positioning stitch. And then for my material, you know what, I don't have any purple in this, so I'm going to leave it as this deep lilac. So gunpowder and deep lilac will be my colors. So again here, so this one I'm going to change. First of all, I want to change it to preferred. And actually I can just do that all the way down the line, just change them all to preferred so that they would no longer say brother. So this is where, you know, it takes time, but I'm going to save this so that every time that I use this chase, this Paw Patrol guy, I don't have to do this anymore. So again, what I'm doing takes a lot more time, but it makes it easier on me in the long run when I'm actually working on this design on the machine. So I'm just changing them all to preferred. For the letters, it's already there. Oh no, it's not. So let's change that to preferred. And then for the number 1, we'll do the same thing. And it changes all of them. Okay, so let's go back to Chase. He's our problem child. He's got a lot of steps. Okay, so we have here the positioning stitch and it's gunpowder, and then the tack down stitch, which is deep lilac. And we have another positioning stitch. Let's change it to gunpowder. And then that one's already deep lilac. So let's see what we have next. Another positioning stitch. Now let's change it to gunpowder, but then we're also going to do the applique and put positioning. And then this is another material or tack down stitch. So we'll set that as well. And the color's already set for us. So this is our first time that we've come across an actual satin stitch, and you see how much darker it is. So look at the difference. So this is an actual tack down stitch. So we don't have to mark it as applique because it's a satin stitch. But what I do need to mark it in as the correct color that I want. So I'm going to double click it. And then the brown that I picked out here is 1872 Madeira. So it's already set on Madeira poly threads. So now all I have to do is search the number. So I type in 1872 and click go, and there it is. It's brunette. So I'm going to double click that. And now it changed it to the color that I want to use. So let's see what's next. This looks like the color of the eyes. So I want that to be the same blue because I don't want to change a bunch of different colors. So I'm going to double click this, and the blue that I have here is 1842. True blue. Here's another satin stitch. We're going to change that to 1872, which what I can do is go to palettes, and it'll show you all the colors that are already set up in my design. So I can scroll down to here it is right here, 1872, because it's already in my design. Here is another satin stitch for the nose and the collar, which I believe should be black. Let's look at a picture of Chase. I just always go to Google Images. Paw Patrol Chase. So I want to get it close to what it actually is. Yeah, his nose is black, and his collar looks black as well. Yep. Okay, so the black that I chose for this project is number 1800. And there it is, emerald black, 1800. Let's see what we have next. Natural white. So this is his eyes. So that's not the white that I have. I use 1801. So I'm going to type that in, 1801. Oh, I have to change it back to threads because it's not in my palette because I haven't used it yet. So I have to go to threads, and it shows me all of the threads. 1801 is super white, so I click that. And you see his colors are starting to change a bit as I'm setting up how I want. Okay, the next one is a satin stitch for the feet. So I'm going to double click, and the color that I have here chosen is 1527. So I'm making sure I'm on threads. I'm going to type in 1527. Go. It's teddy bear. Perfect. Next, so this is a satin stitch for all the blue. So I'm going to double click that, and it will be in my palettes because I've used this already. It's 1842 that I want. And here it is, true blue. And I believe do I want the same blue? I believe so. Let's look at Chase again. Well, his little symbol is kind of white. Oh, okay. So the outside of it, I do want the same blue. True blue. And then for the inside, I'm just going to use white instead of a steel color. I'm going to use white so you can see it a lot better. Super white is what I have here. So it can stand out a bit more, the white on top of the blue. Okay. Here is for my yellow. The yellow I have is 1823, which happens to be daffodil. Perfect. So actually that one lined up. I didn't even have to change that one. Here's next. So this is for inside the ears. I believe Chase's ears are kind of, yeah, they're pink inside. So I did pick out this light pink. It's 1816, so I'm going to change that. I'm going to go back to threads and change that to 1816 and go. And it's rustic pink is the name. And you see how it changed the design there. So we're almost done. I know this has been a lot, and I'm sorry if it's kind of weighing you down, but that's why I'm just doing every step with you so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So this next one is red. So the red that I have with me is 1838, and look, it's the red that's here, so I don't even have to change it. It's 1838. And the final step for Chase looks like this outside here, the rim of his cap and then the outside of his eyes and whatnot. We're going to use the same blue we've been using. So go to palettes and go to True Blue. Okay, so Chase should be all set up in the colors that we want. I'm going to go ahead and save it so that nothing happens and I lose all my progress. And to double check, I make sure that everything says Madeira Poly and it has colors that I know that I've chosen. And then in the beginning, I have them all set as positioning stitch, material stitch, position stitch, material stitch, position, material, and then the rest should all be satin stitches. And I just satin stitches and then these like embroidery stitches. So I'm just double checking that there are no more applique steps here. Awesome. Okay, so Chase is done, and he was the pain in the butt, so he's done. So we can minimize. Now to figure out, so if these are his colors, what color do I want the number one, and therefore what color do I want his name? I'm going to say blue and red, because if you look, you mostly see blue, you know, besides the brown for the dog, but you mostly see blue and actually yellow. You see red and yellow. So really I can choose between those three colors, but I think I'm going to stick with blue and red. So since he has enough blue in his outfit, I think the material that I use for number one is going to be red, and then maybe I'll do the outline in blue. I think that would be cute. And then I'll do his name in red. So I'll go to the number one first. And what I first need to do is set this up again as an applique. So that's a position stitch. And this is a material stitch. And then this last one will be the satin stitch. So remember, I set colors for mine. So instead of this, I want it to be gunpowder. And then for the material stitch, I want it to be that plum or deep lilac. There it is. So therefore I know. And then the final color, the satin stitch, is the actual color that I want. And that one I want it to be the blue, which is the true blue I set up. Because then my color of the material I use within the one, it will be red to bring out the red in his button. Okay? So then therefore his name, I want that to be set off. So I'm going to click on letters and color, and I'll change that to the red that we've been using. Save that. So all my colors are now set up how I want them. From the number one to the name to the design itself. So yes, that did take a certain amount of time, but I'm going to show you the method to my madness. I'm going to come over here to the Stitch Simulator. And now you see all of these colors are colors that I've chosen. And every time you see this gray, you know that it's a positioning stitch. And every time you see this purple, you know it's a tack down stitch, because nowhere in this design do you see any gray or any purple. So whenever you see that, you see gray, you know that it's a tack down stitch. You see purple, you know it's a positioning stitch. And when you see purple, you know that it's a tack down stitch. And then whatever other colors you see, then you know that that's the satin stitch. So that's the satin stitch. Then you see this is a tack down, or this is a positioning, this is a tack down, positioning, tack down, positioning, tack down, boom, satin stitch. And you can scrub through this all the way and see your design come to life from beginning to end. The next step that I do, now first of all, if you noticed, when I was scrubbing through from the number one, it looks whole. I don't see the where I hid the stitches. So I'm going to get out of the Stitch Simulator, you just click it again. I'm going to click hide stitches again, remove hidden stitches, And now let me see when I go back. Yes, you see the jumps now? So always make sure before you do your final save that it's doing that, because you don't want to do satin stitches on top of satin stitches. So I'm going to save that again. So this is really good to go. The only things I have left to do is, this is what I do. I go to File and I click Print. And click OK. I don't do anything else to it. I click File, Print, OK. And the last thing I do is I get out a handy dandy flash drive and put it into my laptop, because that's what's going to transfer my file from my laptop to my PE800. Okay, so I put my flash drive in. Now what I'm going to do is go to File, Save As, and I just always do Stitch and Working. You don't have to. And now I got to change it to my flash drive. And I leave the file name the same, and I just save it. So now it's saved to my flash drive, and then I make sure I stop my flash drive correctly before removing it. So eject. And here is what I printed out. So it prints 2 pages. First, this is an actual size. It prints to size your design. So I use this to not waste so much material, because what I can do is visualize exactly how much of each material that I need and then cut. So like, say for this number 1, I know I want red, right? So I'm going to cut a piece of red fabric that big. I'm not going to cut it the size of this piece of paper thinking that's how much I need, when this is how much I need. This shows you to size. And it's a good reminder of what it should look like. Now this is exactly step-by-step instructions from just like your stitch simulator, and it shows you what's coming, each step. So if I look, the first one shows gunpowder. Remember, I set up gunpowder as the positioning stitch. So I know, boom, okay, I have a positioning stitch. It doesn't matter what color I put in. Honestly, it doesn't. And then I have deep lilac. Then I know that it's a tack down stitch. So those colors just clue me in to what I have going on without me knowing that I have to change those colors. The only colors I need to change are everything else. But whenever I see the gray or the purple, I know I don't have to change those colors. I can just go down to the first satin stitch, which is the blue. So for the first 3 steps, I can just use the blue, and it's perfectly fine. I don't need the gray and I don't need the purple. That's just cluing me into the fact that it's a positioning stitch and a tack down stitch. I know it sounds weird, but once you get going with this, you definitely understand. But again, it's just cluing me in. These are giving me all my steps, because when I'm in the middle of doing a big design like this, I'm on my PE800, I'm changing threads. At the same time, I'm usually doing something else. I might be, doing something with the baby, might be doing something else here, working on another project, whatever. So when I have these step-by-step instructions clearly written out, I don't have to guess which color comes next. I don't have to guess which step comes next. It shows me everything I need here. And it tells me even how many stitches each thing is. So the first step, which is a positioning stitch, is 117 stitches. But then I can look later on when I'm doing like a tack down stitch for the legs, that's 966 stitches. I know it's going to be there for a while. So all of this tells me exactly. It tells me the colors I set up. It tells me the number of the color. It shows me a little bit of a design of what it looks like. It shows me the color. And then it even tells me how many stitches. So for me, this is invaluable. Other people, they don't need to use this, and that's fine. But because I don't have a multi-needle, this just makes it a lot easier for me, so I can visualize. I'm a visual person. I want to see exactly what I'm doing. So that's why this works for me. You don't have to do this part. These are just tips, especially if you're starting out. So there's my design. Tomorrow I'm going to go ahead, now that this is all set up, it's saved. If I ever want to make Chase again for another little boy who's turning 1, all I have to do is change the name. Instead of Javier, I could put Gabriel. Whatever name. Now, instead of maybe Gabriel's turning 6 instead of 1, I can just switch out the number 1. But at least the dog here is set. His colors are set exactly how I want them. And that's what's important. So you don't have to do this every single time, just the first time that you're messing with one design. So that's what's important. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. I'm sorry the video ended up being very, very long. I just wanted to try and get out as much information to you as possible. So stay tuned for my next video where I will actually make this design on a shirt for little Javi for his birthday this weekend. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing. Come back next time, see what other videos and tutorials I have for you. Thanks. Bye-bye. Don't leave, don't leave. I forgot one important thing. So I'm going back to record this. I did change something in design. I made the number one a little bit bigger because I wanted the one to be bigger than the dog. I didn't want the dog being bigger than the number one. So we have that. But I did forget to show you something, and that is the stitch density. So if we click on, in the objects panel, if we click on the number one, you see it highlights everything, right? And you see our hidden stitches. You can see it a lot clearly now that the number one is bigger than the dog. So now go down to your properties panel and click stitches. It's going to say density adjustment. There's satin and fill. So those are your stitches. Your satin stitch, which is your thick stitch around. Your fill stitches are going to be like on the dog, like say his nose. So you're not doing an applique, but it's filling in with embroidery stitches. So like his nose, his eyes, the inside of his ears, this red button, those are all fill stitches, as well as the name. So what you can do is adjust the density to make it higher or lower. My suggestion is to make it higher because that means that it'll put more stitches in for you. And so it'll make it look a little fuller. So what I usually like to do is come down to satin stitch. You can go from 0% up until 25% or negative 25%. I never go negative. But you know, that's your personal preference. I like a thicker stitch, so I usually like to come up to like 15. And then I just always put the satin and the fill at the same thing. Whether it does anything for it or not, I don't know, but I just make it a point of doing that. And then see how it filled everything back in again. So make sure you come back over here and hit remove hidden stitches. Okay, so that's done. Now you can click 5 chase. And you see the fill stitch is already adjusted, but you need to adjust the satin stitch now. And it'll adjust it for the whole dog. Then go down to letters, and this panel is a little bit different because you do have these other options, by the way, like style. You can change it to all of these different things. Order, I believe that's to change the order of the letters and like the order in which it stitches out. You can put a slant, a spacing. Oh, instead of moving it earlier, look, you can just do this. I forgot about that. Or slant. A curve. Or a bottom curve. So it has those options for you. Also, if you hit this 3 lines, it'll let you do like lines of text. Like that. Like if you're doing 2 lines of like the baby's name or something. But this is just for 1 line, and this is if you're doing a circle. So yeah, there were just a few other options there for your lettering. But anyways, go to stitch, and then here you also have composition, or it says comp. So this will like kind of thicken or thin the letters for you. So for example, let me show you going up. When you go up, look what it did. It made it a lot thicker. It doesn't change the stitch density, but it changes the thickness of the individual letters. And you can also go lower and make it thinner if you want, if that's something that you need for your design. So this is at 0. I might make it a little bit thicker. How about that? That's kind of cute. Especially like if I click out, I can see how it looks in comparison with the rest of the design, and I think it goes a bit better. But I'm going to go ahead and click on it again, and then go to stitch, and I'm going to go ahead and put it up to 15, both of them. Okay, now I'm just going to go back in and double check everything. It keeps putting this fill down. Okay. Now the last thing I'm going to check is remove my hidden stitches. And then I'll save it as is. And then I'll resave it. So what I just saved is to my computer, but now I'm going to save as to my flash drive. So I can take it over to my P800 because I'm going to start working on this now. Again, thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption. Come back next time. Bye.